Welcome to Yehoshua's Daf Yomi Shiur, where the Daf continues daily until the complete revelation of Mashiach ben David, Messiah, the son of David. Today we'll be looking at Tractate Chullin, page 84, starting with 84a, the top, and we just started the new chapter called Kisui Hadam, the 6th chapter of Tractate Chullin, and we left off on the previous daf by saying that the Tana of the Mishnah holds that the mitzvah of covering the blood does not apply to a slaughtered animal that is forbidden for consumption. And now we're on the top of 84a with the words V'lifarkinu, V'lachasinu, Ve'enan Hamada Ve'aracha. The Gemara challenges, but even if the Mishnah is dealing with birds consecrated for temple maintenance, let one redeem them after they were slaughtered and then cover their blood. The Gemara responds, this is not feasible, because in order to redeem a consecrated animal, we require setting and valuating, meaning the animal must be stood before a priest in order to evaluate it, and only then is it redeemed. See Leviticus 27, 11, and 12. A slaughtered bird cannot be stood before the priest, consequently, it cannot be redeemed. A slaughtered bird cannot be stood before the priest. Yeah, it makes sense. It's slaughtered. So it cannot be redeemed. Ucheman. The Gemara asks, but if the Mishnah is dealing with birds consecrated for temple maintenance, in accordance with whose opinion is this Mishnah? Ucheman, Ikerabi Meir, Te'omar, Hakol hoyu bichlal amod v'aroche, Ha'amar, Shchita she'ena roya shmei shchita. The Gemara asks, but if the Mishnah is dealing with birds consecrated for temple maintenance, in accordance with his opinion is the Mishnah. If one suggests that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says everything, meaning animals consecrated both for the altar and for temple maintenance, was included in the requirement for setting and valuating, and therefore the slaughtered birds may not be redeemed, this cannot be so. Doesn't he also say that slaughter that is not fit to render the meat permitted is nevertheless considered a halachic act of slaughter that requires the covering of the blood? If so, one should be obligated to cover the blood of the bird even if it is not redeemed. The Gemara continues, and if one suggests the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who says slaughter that is not fit to render the meat permitted is not considered a halachic act of slaughter, and therefore the bird would require redemption in order to cover its blood, this cannot be so. Doesn't he also say that animals consecrated for temple maintenance were not included in the requirement of setting and evaluating? If so, let one redeem the slaughtered birds and cover their blood. Amr Rabbi Yosef, Rabbihi, V'nasiv la aliba detanai, V'shchita she'ena roya, Sava lo k'Rabbi Shimon, V'amod v'aroche, Sava lo k'Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yosef said, in reconciliation of this dilemma, the Mishnah's ruling is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and he formulates the Mishnah in accordance with the opinions from different Tanaim with regard to the status of an act of slaughter that is not fit to render the meat permitted. He holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, while with regard to the requirement of setting and valuating, he holds in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Therefore, since one cannot redeem a bird that was consecrated for temple maintenance once it has been slaughtered, there is no obligation to cover its blood, as the slaughter was not fit to render the meat permitted. Yotzo zeh shemechusa shvicha piduyo v'chisui. And if you wish, say instead that the entire Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who holds that birds consecrated for temple maintenance may be redeemed even after their slaughter, and although it would seem that their slaughter is fit to render the meat permitted, and that one should therefore be obligated in the mitzvah of covering the blood, it is different here. As the verse states, and he shall pour out its blood and cover it. Leviticus 17:13. By juxtaposing pour out to cover, the verse indicates that the obligation to cover the blood applies only to blood that is lacking any pouring and covering, without any intervening step. Excluded is this blood of birds consecrated for temple maintenance, which is lacking pouring, redeeming, and covering. V'hashdad yasis lahachi afilu tema kache mizbeach mishe'ena mechusor el hashvicha v'chisui yotzo zeh shemechusa shvicha gerira v'chisui. The Gemara notes, and now that you have arrived at this explanation, you may even say that the Mishnah is referring to birds consecrated for the altar. As for the question asked earlier, why not let one scrape the blood from the altar and then cover it? The verse states, and he shall pour out his blood and cover it, indicating that the obligation to cover the blood applies only to blood that is lacking only pouring and covering without any intervening step, excluding this blood of birds' offerings, which is lacking pouring, scraping, and covering. The Gemara cites another source for the exclusion of consecrated animals from the requirement of covering their blood. Ravashi said that the verse states with regard to the mitzvah of covering the blood an undomesticated animal or bird, Leviticus 17:13, the juxtaposition of these two species intimates an analogy between them. Just as the undomesticated animal referred to in the verse is not consecrated, as undomesticated animals are never fit for sacrifice, so to the bird referred into the verse is not consecrated. The Gemara asks, if it is so that the halachot of slaughtering a bird are derived from those of an undomesticated animal, then say, just as the verse is referring to an undomesticated animal whose species cannot be consecrated as an offering, so too the verse is referring only to a bird whose species cannot be consecrated as an offering. Therefore, I will exclude even non-sacred doves and pigeons whose species can be consecrated. Lo kechaya man chaya, lo chilakta ba, avarof lo tichlok ba. The Gemara rejects this possibility. No, the juxtaposition indicates that the halacha with regard to the slaughter of birds is entirely like that of an undomesticated animal. Therefore, just as in the case of an undomesticated animal, you did not differentiate between its various species, and all non-sacred animals are included in the mitzvah, so too with regard to the bird mentioned in the verse, you should not differentiate between various species. Amarei Yaakov mina'a derovo. Wow, Yaakov mina'a. Interesting. I don't think we've had him in a while. Yaakov the heretic? Wow. That's amazing. Yaakov the heretic. Yaakov the heretic. Good old Jacob the heretic. Jacob came up today actually. Saw someone, it's a pretty common name, but anyways, I saw someone named Yaakov walking by after I opened the door. Amar li Yaakov mina le'Abba, kaimelon chaya bichlal behemo le'simonim, eimon nabi behemo bichlal chaya lechisui. Concerning the halacha that covering the blood does not apply to a domesticated animal, the Gemara says that Yaakov the heretic said to Rava, we maintain that an undomesticated animal, like let's say a deer, that is included in the category of domesticated animal, with regard to the characteristics necessary to determine whether the animal is kosher, meaning it chews its cud and has split hooves. See Deuteronomy 14, 4-6. If so, I will also say that a domesticated animal is included in the category of an undomesticated animal with regard to the mitzvah of covering the blood. Amar le, Rav said to him, Alecha amar kra ala tishbechenu kamayim. Ma ma'im lo boyechisoy abhai nami lo boyechisoy. Rav said to him, with regard to your claim, the verse states, in reference to the blood of an undomesticated animal, you may slaughter of your cattle and of your sheep, but be strong and do not eat blood. I never understood that. Why do you have to be strong and not eat blood? I think Rashi says something, but it doesn't make sense. Be strong and don't eat blood. Be strong and don't eat the blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Do you pour water on the ground? Deuteronomy 12:21-24. Accordingly, just as water does not require covering, so too this blood of a domesticated animal does not require covering. The Gemara asks, is that if that is so, that the verse equates the blood of a domesticated animal with water, then let one immerse ritually in pure items in order to purify them, just as he can immerse them in water. The Gemara responds, the verse states, but a spring or a cistern or a gathering of water shall be pure. Leviticus 11:36. The exclusionary term but, indicates that only concerning these bodies of water, yes, they render pure an impure item, but while something else, for example, blood, does not. The Gemara challenges, but perhaps one can say that this matter, meaning the exclusionary term in the verse, serves only to exclude other liquids that are not called water, but with regard to blood, which is called water, as the verse states, you shall pour it out on the ground like water. Psh. One may indeed immerse ritually impure items in it. The Gemara responds, two exclusions are written in the verse discussing ritually purifying waters. A spring of water and a cistern of water. The term water is understood as being attached to each of the bodies mentioned in the verse. The additional exclusion serves to exclude the blood. The Gemara challenges say that both this phrase, spring of water, and that phrase, cistern of water, serve to exclude other liquids and not blood, whereby one phrase is to exclude flowing liquids that are not water from having the status of a spring, which renders an item ritually pure even when it is flowing. And one phrase serves to exclude gathered liquids that are water from having the status of a ritual bath, which renders an item pure only when the water in the ritual bath is gathered. Okay. The Gemara responds, three exclusions are written in the verse. A spring of water to exclude flowing liquids, and a cistern of water to exclude gathering liquids, and a gathering of water to exclude blood. The sages taught in Braita, the verse states with regard to covering the blood, and any man of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among them, who traps a trapping of undomesticated animal or bird that may be eaten, he shall pour out its blood and cover it with earth. Leviticus 17:13. I have derived only that one obligates to cover the blood of an undomesticated animal, whereas one traps. From where is it derived that the undomesticated animals or birds and are already considered trapped on their own, such as geese and chickens that do not roam freely, are also included in the mitzvah of covering the blood. Talmud Loimer Tzayid Mikol Mekayim Kin Ma Talmud Loimer Asher Yatzud Lim B'Toiro Derech Eretz Shelo Yochel Odom Bosar Ela Bazmon Hazois. The verse states a trapping to indicate that in any case one is obligated to cover the blood of a domesticated animal. If so, what is the meaning of the verse? States who traps if it is not to be understood literally. The Bryant explains that Torah taught that it is a desired mode of behavior that a person should consume meat only with this mode of preparation. That is, just as the meat that one traps is not readily available, so too one should not become accustomed to consuming meat. Tanu Rabbanan ki yachiv Hashem Elokecha es gevulcho lim de Torah der Heret shelo yochel adam basar ela teavoin. In a similar vein, the sages taught in Braita that the verse states, when the Lord your God expounds your boundary according to every craving of your soul, you may eat. Deuteronomy 12:20. The Torah taught that it is a desired mode of behavior that a person should consume meat only due to appetite, meaning only if you really have a strong desire for it, then you should eat it. Otherwise, maybe not. You shouldn't just eat it because. If you have a strong desire for meat, if your soul desires it, that is, one should consume meat only when he feels a need to eat it. It makes sense. The writer continues, one might have thought that a person may purchase meat from the marketplace and consume it. Therefore, the text verse states, and you may slaughter of your cattle and your flock, indicating that one should consume the meat of animals of his own flock, not those purchased in the marketplace. I guess it's just like non-kosher meat, they're saying. I guess one might have thought that a person may slaughter of all of his cattle, because if it's kosher, I don't see why you can't buy it in the marketplace. People buy it all the time, so maybe they're referring to the non-Jewish marketplace, maybe. One might have thought that a person may slaughter all of his cattle, meaning only his cow, and consume the meat, or slaughter all of his flock, meaning only sheep, and consume the meat. Therefore, the verse states, of your cattle, indicating some, but not all of your cattle, of your flock, but not of all your flock. Mikan, Amar Rabbi Lozo ben Azario, mi sheyesh lo imona, yikach lipaso litra yarek, asaramone yikach lipaso litra dagim, chamishimone yikach lipaso litra boso, me'amone yishpetu lo kedera b'chol yom. Yinachem as mi'erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. From here, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, one who has 100 dinars should purchase a liter of vegetables for his stew pot. One who has 1,000 dinars should purchase a liter of fish for his stew pot. One who has 5,000 dinars should purchase a liter of meat for his stew pot. And if one has 10,000 dinars, his servant should place a pot of meat on the stove for him every day. The Gemara asks, with regard to these other individuals mentioned by Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, when, meaning how often should they consume meat? The Gemara responds, every Shabbat Eve. Amarav tzrichin anu lechosh l'derei zokin. Okay. Amar Yochanan Abba mimashpachas bereim Abba aval kigoyin anu mi sheyesh lo pruta b'sarich kiso yirotzenu lechem v'ni. Rav says we must be concerned for the statement of the elder, meaning Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and be thrifty with our expenditure on food items. Rabbi Yochanan says Abba, meaning Rav, was from a family of particularly healthy individuals and was able to subsist on the modest diet suggested by Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. But with regard to people such as us, who are not as healthy, one who has even one pruta in his pocket should hasten it with it to the storekeeper to purchase food. 2 generations later, Rav Nachman said, with regard to people such as us, who are physically weaker than those in previous generations, not only do we delay the purchase of food items, we even borrow money to purchase food and eat. Kivosim lilivushecho, gaze kivosim yein malvushecho. V'chir sod atudim, lo idam yimkor adam sod v'yikach atudim. Al yimkor adam atudim v'yikach sodim. V'dechol v'yizim dayo. Adam shisparon is b'chol v'gdim, u'toloi mishibitoich beisoi. The Gemara continues its discussion with regard to one's livelihood. The verse states, the lambs will be for your clothing, and goats worth the worth of a field. And there will be goats milk enough for your food, for the food of your household, and sustenance for your maidens. Proverbs 27, 26, and 27. Okay, the lambs will be for your clothing indicates that your clothing should be produced from the shearings of lambs, meaning purchase lambs from whose wool you can produce clothing, and the goats, the worth of a field, indicates that a person should always seek to sell a field and purchase the goats in order to benefit from their milk, wool, and offspring, and a person should not sell goats and purchase a field instead. And there will be goats milk enough indicates that it is sufficient for a person that he be sustained from the milk of kids and lambs that are in his house. Lilach bicha lelechem beisecho, lach mekoidim lelechem beisecho, chaim na beisecho, amamazut chavener nachmen ten chaim na beisecho mikan lim de toiro derch eretz shel lamed odom es benoi bosel yayin. For your food, the food of your household indicates that your food comes before the food of your household. One must first ensure that he has food for himself before providing for others. With regard to the phrase in sustenance for your maidens, Marzuchus and Rav Nachman said, the verse indicates that you must give sustenance to your youth, meaning to your children. From here, the Torah taught that it is a desired mode of behavior that a person should not accustom his son to eat meat and drink wine. Rather, he should teach his children to eat less expensive foods. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and now we'll just continue on to the next topic we started. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, we're talking about 84b now. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Roitze Shizas to Yasak Vehema Dako. Amar Rabbi Chisa, my dichsiv, Vashtori Soincho, Shivas Roises Bali. One who wishes, so Rabbi Yochanan said, one who wishes to become wealthy should engage in raising small domesticated animals. Rav Chizda said, what is the meaning of that which is written in the flocks of your sheep? The Ashtarot Sonecha, Deuteronomy 7:13. It means that sheep enrich, Maaser Ashir. Ashtarot Sonecha, they make you rich. Alright, we'll stop here.